Catching up. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Monday morning. It is February 20th. It is 11:20 a.m. There we are. We're caught up. How are you? I know that last week I didn't go live because I was in the midst of stuff, and I said I would come back when I was um, better, and then it took me like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days to get out of my funk a little bit. So I never got back around, and that was perfectly fine. And so I found myself last Monday, once again arguing with reality, about why. Why was this the way it was? Why did this have to be the way it was? Why did I have to deal with this? There was a certainly a I guess victim-y energy to it that I really was struggling to make peace with. So I had to sit. I had to sit in my feelings. I had to sit in my feelings all week long. And it was uncomfortable and it was painful and it was challenging, but I allowed myself the grace and the space to do it. And that's so I say this all the time. Like this is the work. Life is never gonna stop handing you lemons. I don't actually believe that the more work we do, I actually think that the more work we do, the more we get to up level. So that means that the struggles we deal with are not necessarily any they don't get lighter or easier. They we just have more tools and resources to deal with them, and maybe they don't last as long, right? We can get to the place where we can, like, by the end of it, I got to the place where I was grateful. I was grateful for this up leveling. It was another up level. It was another chance for surrender. It was another entry point of thy will be done. And I'm again, I'm grateful for it. It didn't mean in the moment it didn't suck, because it did. It sucked. I was miserable. I was miserable for, like, I told somebody I wasn't fit for human company for, I don't know, 3 days. At least 3 days. Um it wasn't until Wednesday afternoon when I went to my friend's house and did some manual physical labor. She's doing an amazing renovation on this old two-family home that she and her partner bought as income property, and so they completely renovated it, completely did the whole thing. And so the couple times I've gone out there to help her, so this was the second time, and we were painting the basement with this paint that has cement in it that actually, like, seals the walls and makes them a little bit more waterproof. But you can imagine that that's pretty taxing work. Like, it wasn't like this easy thing. And the paint goes on like right, and it only will you can only do like 2 bricks before you have to get more paint. But, like, it was so ah it was physical, and it didn't require a whole lot of thought, but it kept me moving. It kept me out of my head, which was the problem that I had been in all week long. I had been in my head ruminating on things, trying to figure it out, trying to figure it out instead of just allowing whatever it was to be. There's nothing going wrong and there's nothing to fix. So I even forgot my own mantra. But, like, doing that work, doing that, like, repetitive work, and then having at the end of it this, like, actual results. There was a pride in it, and there was, like, this sense of accomplishment. I could see what we had done, and that did wonders for my mental health. It did wonders for my space. It did wonders for me to be like, it's not that big of a deal. None of it is that big of a deal. So I had to, first of all, get myself out of my zip code. I had to get out of my house and out of my office, and I had to get out of my head, right? So I got to do this physical work. It was a change of pace for me, but the actual physical work was really, I could sort of even, I didn't, and what I also didn't want was, I didn't want to throw my frustrations into this paint, because I know that when we put our energy into something, it has a vibration, right? I know, like, when I cook, I joke all the time that the secret ingredient to cooking is love, but there's actually something to that. That I mean, if we get to the quantum physics level, there's the what we the entanglement, like observer bias. I'm sorry, observer bias. The observer bias is what we look at. The way we look at things changes the way things are, and that's like quantum physics science can show that there's an observer bias. So I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to put um, my frustration into Karen's project because I want her home to be a warm, welcoming project. This is such a heart project for her that I was very, very mindful of not putting my frustrations into the paint. That meant I had to stay present. That meant I had to really stay present in the moment, focused on the task at hand. I couldn't go forward. I couldn't go to the future. I couldn't go to the past. I had to stay fully present. And the physical task kept me doing that. It kept me in my body, not in my head. And so I didn't have time for emotions. And at the end of the day, yes, I was tired and my body was sore, but I felt good because I had been in my body all day long. And that was important. And like I said, life is always going to be handing us lemons. Our job is to make lemonade with it. I say this all the time. And also, I talk about we have to feel our feelings, we have to stay in the moment. And then the other day, after I got through my mini my mini 3 days of, I don't know what it was, just upgrade, my 3 day sojourn in upgrading. I had a session with a client the other day, and she was sort of getting animated. There was a lot of energy around the awful things and how terrible she had, all these things that she had done that were terrible, and there was a lot of like, we started to gain a lot of traction on it, and I actually had this like feeling, like I felt it. I was like, oh, you need to stop. Like I actually felt the experience of her words creating vibrations, and I was like, no, no, no. If we want to create, if we want to live in a world that's safe, we can't be, the words we speak are sending out vibrations into the universe, and they don't end. So it I had to stop her and just remind her that the thoughts that she had and the words she was speaking were creating exactly the world that she didn't want. And I realized that's part of what I had been doing for the first couple of days of the week. And it just hit me. It hit me like a ton of bricks. It hit me like a ton of bricks that the words we speak and the thoughts we have are what's creating our reality. It is what's creating our reality. So we have an obligation not only to ourselves, but to the world, to the planet, to the universe, to be in the moment of what we want to create. And not that I forgot that last week, I've never forgotten it. It was a really amazing reminder to me and the contrast between the beginning of the week and the end of the week. The words we speak and the thoughts we have create vibrations. And the more vibrations we create, the more the world around us can change. What we've spent the last several years doing is being in this sort of fear-based, anxious, challenging space. Certainly the last 3 years have put our nervous system in tatters collectively. The several years prior to that also had that effect. I mean, most of us have been pretty anxious since 2016, 2017. It's been several years. Some of us have spent our whole lives that way. Some of us have been anxious since any big event that's happened. We've lived in this world of fear and lack and scarcity, but I think it's been ramped up. It certainly has been ramped up in the past 3 years, for sure. I mean, we've lived through a pandemic, and whether you want to argue that the pandemic is over or not, we're all desperately trying to get back to normal, but there is no normal anymore, and our nervous systems just don't know what to do with it. And it's gonna take its toll. It's gonna take its toll on all of us. It has already taken its toll on all of us. I mean, you could look at any number of statistics that talk about depression and anxiety rates. And because we're so focused on the fear, the lack, the scarcity, the anxiety, the overwhelm, and no matter how hard we try, we we can't get past it because you can't ignore it. You have to feel it. You have to sit in the discomfort. I do this, like I said, I do this for work for a living, and I had to sit in that for 3 days. So if you've never done it, it's even more painful. Which is why the other day when I was working with my client, I said, hold on, stop for a second, hold on. That's not helpful, is it? She said, no. I said, does that make you feel good? She said, no. I said, let's just stop it then. I was able to give her permission to stop it in the moment. And that's what I'm teaching her, is how to do that. And also, she was experiencing the fear. She was unable to get back into her body. So sometimes, and that's part of what's going on right now. We're heads on a stick. And so as a collective, we need a change. We need to, each of us is now responsible for doing our own work, because it's not, I don't know that it's going to get easier to live in this world. I mean, planetary shifts, we've now, we've entered Pisces season, which is a lot more dreamy and a lot more um, um, awareness, right? There's a lot more of like global, there's not universal consciousness. Like the Pisces energy is much more curious and possibilities, right? Um, and as the planets shift and as Pluto enters into Aquarius, we've got some changes coming to the status quo. I mean, Pluto in Aquarius is a revolutionary energy. I mean, there's no denying it. Pluto is the great disruptor, and Aquarius is the rebel, right? It's the change. So there's stuff coming. I don't necessarily know that it gets easier to live in this world, because it's got to get pretty uncomfortable before people will change, and so we really need to change things up. So it may get increasingly more uncomfortable, even though sometimes it feels like we can exhale a little bit easier, and maybe it's just that we're getting used to things. One of the topic that I said for today was Sisyphus and the rock. And the story of Sisyphus is that he was a pretty nasty king by all accounts. He was a Greek king who supposedly cheated death twice. And so, because he was so cunning and cheated death twice, when he died the third time, really died, they punished him. Zeus, the head of all the deities, punished him for his trickery, and he consigned him to having to push a rock up the hill every single day. And that at the end of every day, he would get it just to the top of the hill, and then at the end of the day, overnight, he would fall asleep, and then gravity would take the rock all the way back down to where he started. He was then consigned to do this for eternity. This was his job. He had to push the rock up the hill and watch it fall back down and push the rock back up the hill again. And that sounds like a pretty depressing story. And yet, when I did a little bit more research, which is a little bit why I was late today, I wanted to kind of actually dive into this, is that, like, the story goes, and again, this is myth, but we can take a lot from it. The story goes that Sisyphus didn't actually let this rock bother him. It then became his purpose, and he pushed the rock up the hill every single day with passion and enthusiasm and being like smiling, this is my job. And he knew that every single day he was going to have to go right back and push the rock back up the hill again, but he did it with passion. They it still didn't end up getting to be a punishment for him because he made it his purpose. He this is what I got to do. This is the task in front of me. I'm going to do this with every fiber that I have. And he did. He pushed right. That's supposedly he this was eternity. Again, it's a myth, and also we can draw a lot from this. It's I just said it's pretty messy in the world right now. And will continue to get increasingly messy because we have to break down all of the systems that no longer work. There has to be a breakdown of all of this shit so that we can rebuild. The universe is only ever an expansion or contraction. We're experiencing a pretty significant contraction because we're at the beginnings of a real huge expansion. I mentioned a couple weeks ago about the age of Aquarius. That's what we're birthing. That's what we're heading into. That the age of enlightenment. We got to break out a lot of the shit that no longer works and no longer serves and no longer like systemic challenges. And there's a fight. There's a push pull. There's a dark and a light going on. And when you when you resist, you give it you create the thing you're resisting more. You give that thing more energy, you make it stronger by focusing on the things that you don't want, by resisting the changes, by trying to push through when you need to rest, by trying to avoid. You're creating the very thing you don't want. And again, I had to live this all last week until I had something to put a spoke in the wheel and change my energy. And that's what we're being called to do right now. We are all individually being called to change how we do things, how we show up. Because we are the change we've been waiting for, and we just got to do it. So if you're mired in fear and lack and scarcity and anxiety, or if you're trying to pretend that you're not, and still something doesn't feel right, this is the time. This is your call to action. We don't have a choice in the matter anymore. We have a moral obligation because now we're creating worlds that we don't want to live in anymore. That's not our job. Is to push the rock. Whether or not we even succeed, and our job is to be Sisyphus and do it with as much enthusiasm as we possibly can. This too? Okay. But if you don't have the tools and the resources to do that, and I fully expect that you don't, you can't do it alone. Because you need someone who can teach you what it feels like to have a safe space inside of you. And if you've never experienced it, or you haven't experienced it in a really long time, it may seem impossible. You need somebody, a healer, a teacher, a coach, me, to show you what it means to create a safe space inside of you, because it's the only thing that's going to take your nervous system out of this perpetual fight or flight that we've been in for 3 years or 6 years or 27 years or 48 years or however long you've been in this state. The time is now for you to get out of it. And you can't do it alone. You just can't. We need a tribe. We need people who can help us. We need someone to shine the light in our dark spaces so that we can actually have the ability to look at them. But if we've been running scared from them, we need someone to help us create a safe space, because you can't solve the problem at the level it was created. That's the crux of it. I've got a workshop on Wednesday this is it's sort of the topic of the workshop: joy, embracing joy. We had an amazing discussion last week on what is joy, and one woman was like, it was a totally different perspective for her when I said joy is is a state of mind. It's a state of being, right? That I'm in joy even when I'm sad, even when I feel bad. I feel joy, I feel peace, I feel calm, and when I don't, I do the work to get myself back to that place. And that's what I did all last week is I did the work to get myself back to the place where I could feel peace and calm and joy. We have a workshop Wednesday in Westboro. There's a retreat. We're going to do it for 4 days in March. I mean that's going to be after having done it on Thursday with Francine. I was like, oh my God, this retreat's going to be more epic than anything. I get it, money. I get it. We will never let money stop you, so work with us. I did a group healing on Friday that was powerful. That if you want the replay, join the membership. It's $25, and you can cancel it, right? You can pay $25, get last month's replay. It's already up on the membership site, and you can get next month's. I think it doesn't have to be an ongoing thing. And if $25 is too much, talk to me. Let's figure it out. And I have a couple spots open for one-on-one coaching, which at this moment, I think most of my clients are like paying me what they can afford because I refuse to allow money to stop you from doing your work. Because truly, the world needs your light. Truly, truly, the world needs your light. So maybe instead of being drudgery about the rock that we have to push up the hill again. Why do I have to push this rock up this hill? What if we could suddenly see that as the most joyous event we could have? I love you all. Happy Monday. I will see you next week.